welcome everyone. It's Susanne here from the Project Manager Clinic. And today we've got a new spotlight on project managers. So we'll start to do these spotlights every couple of weeks. They're going to be short and sharp, 15 to 20 minutes. And somebody like our guest today, Susanne Mackay, is going to be our person in the spotlight. So I hope you all enjoy this session that we're going to do today. This is the very first one, and we're trying to not only highlight Susan, but to highlight the skills and the techniques and tools that she used in project management. So stick with us, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. Hi, Susan. How are you going?
Great, Suzanne. Thank you. Very honoured to be the first in your spotlight on project management. Thank you.
Absolutely perfect. Now, I know that you're a senior project manager. You have done complex technology, complex change across multiple domains, customer experience, agile, you've been in banking. What else can you add about your experience?
Well, I have, with my experience, I actually look for projects that are complex and needs that attention to detail from end to end. You know, I look for business cases that need real attention to detail and engaging the right stakeholders in order to
Yeah.
actually deliver from the beginning. I work with the solution architects and designers. I work with the product owners. I work with risk, finance, legal,
Right.
compliance, and
Across the
all those
board.
areas across the board. I'm,
Yeah.
don't leave a stone unturned, and making
hmm
sure that, we've got the right people in place.
So today we're going to talk about one of your projects, and I know that you've got many and it's sometimes hard to choose, but the spotlight is on you and one of those projects. What are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about NAB's delivery of Apple Pay to mobile devices. It was a very quick project because contractually we needed to actually deliver within 12 weeks. So there was a lot to actually consider in that 12 weeks, and
Mm.
there was, some Apple required some contractual obligations, which were challenges, but we got through them.
Look, and actually, when you first mentioned about this project, it's Apple and it's in a bank. So
Yes.
both of those things have got unique challenges, I would think, that we don't find, everywhere. So how did you manage some of those challenges?
Yeah, well, probably one of the biggest challenges was digitization of the the technology and making sure that we had the right solution for that. We had a very good technical PM who actually oversaw, and I'm technical business, but we had
Right.
someone that knew the digitization technology in order to make sure that we had the right communication between NAB and Apple. So setting that up or having that on board, and then me rounding up all the asset teams within NAB, or the technical teams, squads they're called now,
hmm
within NAB, and running those workshops so that we could get the right solution and deliver within 12 weeks. So there was a lot more work that could have been done later on. And that's where,
Mm.
agile ways of working support, the further refinement of that work. But, you know, we had the workshops which I ran, pretty much got the right people on board. But then one of the challenges was we were partway through a fiscal year. So all the
Ah.
teams already had a prioritization set for other work that was to be delivered in that year.
hmm
So I had to then go, well, product owner, head of, executives, we need to get prioritization on this. Otherwise, we're not going to get it done in 12 weeks. So,
Mm.
it took a couple of days, and eventually we got that prioritization. It's about the quick escalation of what's needed in order to ensure delivery. So that's what a
Yeah.
technique that I employ all the time if there's issues, and we need to get around those.
It's one of those things we talked a little bit about this before we started, that so many project managers that I talk to are a little bit frightened about going to their sponsors and having that hard conversation.
Mm.
So I want you to talk a little bit about the technology that was used in this, but also these are challenging stakeholders that you've got, and you talked about the escalation. Was there a way that you were able to do that, like a project management tool or having the same conversation with? How did you do it, and what was the key technology?
Yeah, right. So the key technology was being able to get a payment from a watch through Apple systems and then back into NAB, and then
Okay,
relaying that back so that the customers had acknowledgement that they've had that payment made via their watch or their their phone,
right,
or their iPad. So that basically is what the technology entailed. So what we had, because it was such a very important project, needed to be done very quickly. We already had a project room that we were using for
uh-huh,
our personal banking projects, but we took over that room pretty much. And we had a Kanban board with all the teams and their requirements, plus an overarching, like, this is the high level, what we need to do in what time. We had detailed project management plans, and we also had a daily stand up. So
right,
sometimes we would have those daily stand ups if we needed executives or heads ofs or someone to be across the information that we needed. We'd bring them into that room and
mm,
put aside the stand up for a while and have that conversation early in the morning with whoever needed to make decisions. And also the product owner was very close to myself, and the other project teams and the solution architects as well.
right,
And really, they were just as engaging as I was in
mm-hmm,
terms of making sure it happened um, on time. And we didn't talk about budget. We knew we had a budget, but
yeah,
I haven't we can't disclose budget for that. So,
no,
but obviously there was limitations.
mm,
Um, and one of the things that we needed Apple needed us to do was actually open live test accounts and cards within the banking
wow,
organization,
yeah,
and they needed to test them on devices and
mm-hmm,
merchant terminals. So
right,
doing that, um, it required a lot of uh, we needed to actually get approval through fraud, risk, legal, compliance, and
mm,
ultimately we needed to get the CRO to sign off on that. So we had to I arranged for a paper to be drawn up on what was going to be opened, detailing, the account numbers, the account names, the card numbers,
mm,
aligned to those accounts, all of that sort of stuff. And the CRO, Chief Risk Officer, had to sign off on that before we could go ahead with that. And then it was very specific about, we need to have like one test room. It was off-site. We couldn't do it on-site.
yeah,
Um, and it was off-site, and we had to test that. And that required extra resources to obviously get that going. But NAB needed to be in the room with Apple, making sure they weren't doing the wrong thing. And they tried to, and we had to pull them up for it
yeah.
in order to, you know, make sure that we tested accurately and with their requirements. So,
So it's a very complex environment, and
mm,
and I'm glad to hear you talking about that project room, or in the old days we used to call them a war room, and
yeah,
to be able to bring a stakeholder in and say, this is actually the schedule. Look at it there on the wall. Look how big it is. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the other
yeah,
things, because not everybody is takes in information in the same way. Excuse me.
no,
But to have it visual like that is really good. But the engagement is what is standing out for me on this. So
mm,
you obviously achieved the outcomes, but what are the skills or your skills do you think that this project actually highlights
yeah.
specifically?
Well, It highlighted my stakeholder engagement, number one, right? And
Yeah.
everybody talks about, and that's why I was actually chosen to do that project. My ability to bring in the right people who we needed to make the decisions and then deliver,
Yep.
was paramount. The other thing was taking a helicopter view of what we needed. I always begin with the end in mind. So, May delivery, we've got 12 weeks. What do we
Yep.
need in that 12
Walk it
weeks?
back.
Walk it back. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
So,
Basic stuff. Yeah.
yeah, what do we need to do and when, and how are we going to get to
Mm.
that phase, and who do we need to put the spotlight on in order at each phase to get to that phase. And the other complexity we had was change in communications, because
Mm.
we were told, we were, as contractually, we weren't able to actually engage the frontline workers and tell them that what was happening. So a bit of background in that is because the customers really wanted this. They were asking us in the call center all the time. They were um, you know, in social media and saying, when are we getting Apple Pay? I think a guy had a repeated link into social media every hour or so. When are we getting Apple
Yeah.
Pay? And all of that sort of
Right.
stuff. So we, NAB had to actually respond to that. And that's
Mm.
why, leaving it until the day of launch was always going to be a problem, because we need to engage our call centers in particular upfront, so we don't actually impact grade of service. So having that knowledge as well in my own head, and I kind of said, well, we can't do that. Like, that's just going to be really hard on the call center up front. And the change manager was like, how do we get around this? Like, what are we going to do? And then when we engaged the high level people in the call center, so our equivalents in the call center, we're not doing that. We're going to tell them. And we've gone, well, contractually, we can't. So,
Right.
getting around that was really difficult. We kind of celebrated when we bombed the grade of service, and everybody, the customers were always happy, but we always had it in the back of our minds that we would really not like to have done that to our call center on that particular day. But at the end of the day, the project was successful, and I use Apple Pay probably too much. And,
So what do you think others could learn from this experience?
um, yeah, when you've got a project that is so important to your customers, you really need to take the bull by the horns
Mm.
and do what you can to try and achieve it within the timeframes that are required. And also, I think nothing is nothing is everything's achievable within tight timelines. You
Yeah.
just need to be, yeah, take a breath, take a step back in the first day or two, and think about, really plan out how you're going to tackle that, and run it
Yeah.
by other people, run it by your program director, see what they think about,
Yeah.
what your strategy is to actually deliver this. Speak to your product owner or whoever it is that's ultimately responsible for making sure that this happens under strategy. So
Yeah.
um it can happen, and nothing's unachievable if you have the money and the priority.
One of the things as you're talking that I notice is that you're very calm. So you've obviously thought things through when you're managing these projects, and I'd say very approachable, but very calm, strategic thought, covering all the bases, and not afraid to communicate the hard stuff if you need to. What would you like your next challenge to be?
I would like my next challenge to be something in digital banking, or it could be digital customer service as well, because I delivered Qualtrics for Crown in the last 12 or 18 months.
Yeah,
So that was a great experience. Um, so either one, but something where I'm actually supporting business to connect easily with their customers, and the customers to have a better customer experience,
Yeah.
and to, where they want something from the organization that's going to be easy for them. So I've always had customers at the heart of everything that I do. And I've recently thought about, directly with communities, so in council or in
Mm-hmm.
aged care or even NDIS. Like I
Yep.
know that I can do projects across any of those organisations, whether it be an enterprise service bus or
Yeah.
ESB or whatever it might be. I know that I can actually learn the technology like I did with Apple Pay and
Mm.
deliver the right outcomes for the business. So every
Yep.
project I've done has been slightly different to the next, and I've had some sort of learning. So yeah, I can do that in the
Yep.
future as well.
And the other thing I'm hearing, which I'm always banging on about, is that it's project management. The really important words in project management is the management part. It's the
Mm-hmm.
management of a thing that is finite. It's got a start and an end date. And I don't think we focus enough on that. But what I'm hearing from you is that you have literally managed that finite, well, that project, that activity. It could have
Yeah.
been any activity. You got the right people in on board. You talk to the right people. And as I said, you seem to have the right attributes to manage, and you're calm and all of those things. But you have that knowledge about project management to apply the right
Mm.
tools and techniques when you need. So my last question, and if you're there out there watching, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. If if you're happy with what you're hearing, my last question to you, Susan, is why are you passionate about project management? What gets you up in the morning?
That's a good question, and it's one that I've answered so many times. It's just the ability to actually deliver really good solutions for businesses, and
Mm-hmm.
which impact customers and support customers as well. I started out in lending. Well, I was one of the first lenders over the phone. I saw a need for business process reengineering. That got
Yep.
me into project management, because we had little projects to make it better for our customers to receive their lending applications in the branch,
Mm-hmm.
rather than taking 2 weeks. It should have been a week, or it ended up being 2 days. Obviously, with advancements in technology,
Yeah.
um, we can. There's been better turnarounds, and it's instantaneous. It's actually online now. I've done some
Yeah.
online application stuff, but everything that I've touched, it's beginning with the end in mind. How's this going to impact the customer? What benefits are the customers going to get? And
Mm-hmm.
what's the return on equity for the organization? And
Right.
also, what's the benefit for the organization? So it's
Yep.
kind of like having that round view and getting it done. So when we delivered Apple Pay, we were very fortunate to have marketing behind us as well. And we
Yeah.
had a heap of signs. I know I live out in the suburbs, and my local shopping centre's got a big wraparound sign on it. And when I was driving from my kids, from the day we delivered it, from my kids' school to the train station, on the wraparound sign, NAB Pay, Apple Pay is here today, or something along those lines.
Yep.
We blew up the call centre. I walked into the building, and there was people handing out, I think they were cupcakes with Apple Pay on them, and they were really
Wow. Yeah.
engaged with it, and
Yeah.
everybody was like really happy about it. And
Yeah.
with every project that I have, we try and do something, not, maybe not as grandiose, but something to actually celebrate that, and we really did celebrate that. And
Super satisfying. That must have
yeah,
been so satisfying. So
yes,
it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, Susan. And for
um,
those of you watching out there in YouTube land, Susan's details will be in the description below if you would like to contact her about a role or anything else that we've talked about today. Of course, we're here at the Project Manager Clinic if you need help or resources about how to apply your project management techniques. Um, and again, it's been absolutely fabulous. So thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you, Suzanne, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And
No,
yeah, reach out if anybody's
yeah,
got opportunities. Yeah.
absolutely fabulous. So have a great project day, and we'll see you next time.